Hi, my name's Corey Pieper. I'm a Techniques Development Meteorologist here at Southern Region Headquarters, and I work in the Technology and Fusion branch. Today I'm going to be talking about moving Southern Region Web Services to the Integrated Dissemination Program. Quick outline here, we're going to talk a little bit about what our web services are like right now, discuss the Integrated Dissemination Program, or IDP, and the Internet Dissemination Group, formerly known as NIDS, or NIDS, talk a little bit about the new CMS, discuss some migration tools and some help that you all will have available to you during the migration, hit on some migration frequently asked questions and try to answer those, and then talk a little bit about the proposed timeline. So the current state of Southern Region Web Services, the web services are hosted on robust, redundant servers, redundant being redundant here at Southern Region Headquarters, but we actually have a single point of failure with regards to comms. There's one network line coming in and out, so if we have a failure there, all the Southern Region web services do go down. The web services themselves, the servers themselves, are supported by the Technology and Fusion branch, of which there are only 3. So 24-hour, 7-day-a-week support is difficult, and so that is one thing that's a drawback with our current setup. There hasn't been a whole lot of development with our current CMS. You all access that using tas.srh.noaa.gov. You log on, make changes to news items, add web pages and things like that, but it's been pretty much static for maybe 3-4 years or so. And that's because the NIDS group has changed their focus toward developing and improving the new content management system that Eastern Region and Central Region are already on. So in comes the NOAA Integrated Dissemination Program. The point of the IDP is to transform our dissemination capabilities, ours being the Weather Service, capabilities into an integrated enterprise dissemination service. So as opposed to Eastern Region, Southern Region, Central Region each having their own web farm and hosting web pages from those, we're looking to centralize all that and make it a more consistent, better supported, and redundant system. So there are a number of projects that are moving into the IDP, and the Web Services project is just one of them. So this is why we're moving, and not only is the IDP there, and that's really the end goal of Weather Services to create this integrated and consistent messaging. Soon we won't have funding to even support Southern Region Web Services. The IDP does not include funding to support public web services out of the regions. Southern Region, of course, just being one of those. So the Internet Dissemination Group, or IDG, they're the group that were formerly known as NIDS, or NIDS. They are basically the IDP's solution for web hosting. So they are the folks that maintain the new content management system and the systems on which that runs, as well as point and click, AHAPs, all those national programs. Those are maintained and developed by IDG, or the Internet Dissemination Group. They have redundant systems in College Park, Maryland and Boulder, Colorado. So that's definitely a bonus over our current situation, whereas all the web services are here at Southern Region Headquarters. In the past, the NIDS group has had as few as maybe 4 personnel, 3 of those being actual developers. Over the past year or so, they've beefed that up quite a bit. They're now up to 17 developers. And developers is sort of a blanket word I'm using for a pretty wide variety of folks. There are database administrators, program managers, web developers, web designers, which is something that's fairly new to the Weather Service and very welcome. Over the next few months, they're expected to maybe tack on another 3 folks. That would put them up to about 20 there in IDG by the fall of this year. As you might have guessed, more resources means more work's getting done. So there's almost continuous development happening right now. The development sprints is what I highlight here. Sprints are where this team focuses on one large project during, say, the course of a week or 2 and hammer out all the things that are changing with that project, and that's all they focus on, and then they roll that out at the end of the sprint. So they're almost continuously doing that at this point now, which is great. The IDG's content management system, I'd already mentioned that Eastern Region and Central Region are using that. Now this what I'm talking about right now is our plan to move over to this new content management system. Every region will be moving. That includes Western Region, Alaska. I think Pacific is already in the process of doing so, and Weather Service headquarters themselves and all the pages they host are moving over as well. The new content management system is a much more modern content management system than we have now, and there's improvements happening pretty routinely at this point. Improvements take the form of modules that are developed by the IDG, and those are all based on requirements from you, the field, as we move forward now. I'll talk a little bit about how those requirements are fed up to IDG to get rolled into the content management system here in a couple slides. The documentation on the site is really good. There's a little documentation link you'll see there on the example screenshot of the content management system on this slide. If you go there, there's a lot of good information already baked in that'll add to what I'm going to talk about here that we'll have available. So speaking of which, migration tools and assistance. We knew migrating over to the content management system is not going to be easy. It's going to be a lot of work, but it is something that we have to do and do together. So a few things we have available already out there. First and foremost, a Google site. There's the web address right there. I try to keep that up to date with sort of the latest news at the very top, some things that you definitely need to be remembering. A lot of that is, if I start getting a lot of questions from the field about something that's confusing, I'll make sure to put that in red at the very top of the site to highlight that. There are going to be a couple teams that are going to help in this transition. The first is the web technical team. The membership we're still working out and getting approval by management, but the purpose of the web technical team will be to help offices out there that might not have technical expertise to migrate some of the more complicated pages over to the CMS. With this new CMS, there's not going to be PHP permitted, so any development of any sort of dynamic pages or data-driven pages is going to have to be done in JavaScript in the CMS itself. So this web technical team will serve as a resource for those offices that have pages, say, now in PHP that need to be moved over to the CMS and they don't have local JavaScript experience to do that. So you'll be hearing more about that once the membership is solidified, and there'll be an easy way to submit requests for help from that team. The other team that's going to be that is spinning up is the web enhancement team. The web enhancement team is that mechanism for getting requirements to IDG for the CMS and various things that I had mentioned before. The web enhancement team is going to consist of the MICs that lead the smart teams out in the National Weather Service Southern Region here, as well as RFC representation and CWC representation. The team will basically bring or will gather requirements from the field and discuss those things and formulate those into requirements that Southern Region will submit to IDG for development and rolling in to the CMS. Other things that the web enhancement team will do are, discussing how our menus will be set up, how those will be consistently set up. There's a drop-down menu that consistency is desired there. How the front page will look ideally to keep some consistency across the region. So they'll be the group that discusses those types of things too, to keep consistency at a level that's good for Southern Region. Google Analytics is already available for our current sites, and it'll be available on the CMS as well, but most importantly for the migration, Google Analytics will help you all see what kind of traffic your pages are getting out there. So it'll help you make a little bit more educated decision on whether or not the general public is really using what you're making, and whether or not that's something that really needs to be moved over to this new content management system. Upon request, Southern Region Headquarters, I'll provide a listing of all the CMS pages or PHP pages that you have available. So just shoot me an email with that request, and we'll get that taken care of for you. Otherwise, of course, they're already in the CMS if you just want to look through them that way. And the PHP pages themselves are on the dev server for those of you that that develop PHP. And then, as always, there's more training upon request. So if it comes to a point where it's pretty obvious that we need some training on this or that, please let me know. And if we can't find the training as it exists somewhere out there, we will find someone to do it. Or if it's something I'm able to do, I'll do it myself. So some quick migration frequently asked questions. So Southern Region web pages are all going to need to be migrated to this new content management system. So everything that's currently on www.srh.noaa.gov is going away at the migration deadline. So that's something to keep in mind. WFO and RFC homepages will be standardized with additions vetted by that regional web requirements team or web enhancement team that I mentioned on the previous slide. And so you'll be hearing a little bit more about that. All the WFO web page content has to be developed using the CMS, or the Content Management System. There's the URL right there. There's already been quite a bit of confusion. Some people have been trying to log in using the cms.dev.nids.noaa.gov. Do not use that. Use this address right here. And I've posted on the Google site as well to try to make that a little bit more clear. I've already mentioned that PHP is not allowed anymore, and pages should and can be developed in JavaScript within the CMS itself, the new content management system. Graphic casts are going to be done exactly as they were before, at least with regards to getting them to display on your pages. So SendWeb can still be used, that same configuration file can be used, the same images, everything like that. So your process for making and getting them to display will not change. The way they look on the front pages will likely change. NIDS is developing right now the module that will display the graphic casts, and that's a good thing. It's still going to be prominently featured high up on the page, not the way Central Region is doing it right now, but it'll be high up on the page, and it will very likely be much better looking than what we've got out there right now. So you have that to look forward to, and nothing will change as far as the workload goes when creating graphic casts. The menu items above the wall map will be standardized based on recommendations from that same web enhancement team. So between these menu items being discussed by that regional team and the standardization of the home pages being discussed by that regional team, when you first dive into the CMS and start doing your transition, don't worry about the front page or the menus for right now. Just leave those alone until you get some more guidance with regards to those two items. And then the final bullet there is there aren't going to be any more Google Maps. Do not recreate Google Maps in this new content management system. That's not a technical limitation, that is a contractual limitation. The Google Maps contract is going to be up about the time that we move over, maybe a little bit after that. I think it's after the start of the new year, 2016, but you rip off that Band-Aid right now. Do not do any more Google Maps. On the Google site for this transition, there's some documentation that I put there that will help you start developing using alternatives. One of them is the Esri JavaScript API, and the other is the OpenLayers JavaScript API. So take a look at that if you're looking to make dynamic pages on the new CMS. You've all seen the new pages. I'm sure this is a screenshot from the WFO in Indianapolis, Indiana. So this is the general look and feel, and this will be very, very similar to what we've got or what we're going to have. With the graphic cast, things will likely shift around a little bit to provide some room for the graphic cast for offices that use graphic cast, but our look and feel is going to be very, very similar to this, pending what the web enhancement team comes up with. So the proposed timeline, this is sort of, it's pretty way up in the air. We're still talking about the September 30th date here, so this is all pretty tentative, but the bottom line is start transitioning right now. Dig into the CMS, log in, make sure your users can get in there, and start discussing what it is you're going to transition as an office. One thing I do ask that you consider as an office is not looking at this necessarily as a migration, which implies that everything on the old web is going to the new web. Try to look at this as creating a new web presence that's going to serve your customers' needs, and try to leverage the Google Analytics to determine what in the past has worked, and let that help you decide what's going to work in the future. And hopefully, at least based on what I've seen from the stats, that will mean that you're going to be recreating a lot less pages than you have out there. A lot of our pages just don't get that many views, and I think with discussions at your office, you can probably reason that it might not be worth the effort to create some of that content that you have been in the past. But that is all up to your office. Right now, the deadlines for transition are September 30th for you all to get the transition done, all the required content over to this new content management system, and then On October 14th, then, the switch would be flipped for everything currently on Southern Region Headquarters web pages to turn over to what has been created on the new content management system. So I know that was a lot. Hopefully this recording will allow you to go back and take a look at some of the things I've discussed. And if you have any questions whatsoever, please email me, corey.pieper@noaa.gov, as well as Melinda Bailey at noaa.gov, and we'll do our best to answer any questions you might have.